Good morning. This morning I thought we'd work a little bit on the stock for the short rifle. I've already done a lot of work on it. Um, it looked pretty bad, and as I probably showed it earlier, had a lot of dirt on it and a lot of grime, and it hadn't really been taken care of very well. So what I've done to it so far looks pretty good. I took it and I took some denatured alcohol and I put it on a rag and I wiped it down real good and I mean really sopping wet rag, and it took a lot of the oil off and some of the dirt. What I did then was I took some 4 um, steel wool, got that really wet with alcohol, and wiped it down kind of aggressively with the 4 steel wool, and it took off quite a bit more. But it still didn't look quite the way it does today. What I had to do was I took some of the citra strip stuff. It's a citrus strip. It's not all that caustic or that powerful. But what I did was I put that on and let it sit for about 4 hours. Every half hour or so, I went and I put more on until it built up a good caking of it. Then I took it off and I dried it, and took off a lot of the oil that was and crud that was on the stock. I wasn't done yet because then what I did was I took some stuff that's called crud cutter. It's just an all-purpose cleaner, and I sprayed it down real good with the crud cutter and wiped it really aggressively with a rag. And that leaves us with what we've got now, which is the deep-seated oils. You can see there's still some deep-seated oils in there, and it's like, well, how are we going to get rid of that? Well, I'm going to show you how we're going to get rid of it. Um, the rifle came with a handguard. The handguard is broken. It's missing a piece on the end here, the piece that fits up underneath the band. So I have a solution for that. I was working on my Brazilian, finishing that off, and what it needed was a handguard to be able to finish it. So what I did, I couldn't find a handguard for it either. So, but I did have a handguard for the long rifle for the 1908 Brazilian long rifle, and it fit, except it was too long. It stuck out about that far. Actually, it stuck out this far. So what I did was, as I've done before, is I cut that end off with a chop saw, and then I took my Dremel and I made this thinner here so that it would fit up underneath the band. And you can see that it fits up underneath the band. So that was great. That's a solution for two problems. Number one, the Brazilian is finally done. I think I've already done the video on the Brazilian, and I'm glad to have that finally done. And the other thing that happened is I've got a piece now that I can use. So it doesn't fall. So what I plan to do is take the broken handguard and attach the piece to it, and that will give me a handguard. It'll give me a fixed 1912 short rifle handguard. So problem solved on dude counts. So, but in this one here, like I said, it's looking really good. The grain is actually looking pretty good on it, and it's going to be a pretty rifle when it's done. One of the there's several problems with the stock, and I've repaired some of them. I don't know if you can see down inside there the shininess, and there's also I've done some here too. And what it's cracks. It's just cracks from it being fired, and when you fire your rifle, it goes down and it tries to split it in two, the barrel when it goes down the middle. So it does crack it. There's also a little crack back here, which I need to fix. Um, the way that I fix the cracks, what I use is, some people uh, find it uh, not the best way, but it works for me, is I take and I put it in a vise, and then I try to spread the crack a little bit, just a little bit, and then I pour in a bunch of super glue, just super glue, and till it, I'm sure that the space inside is saturated with the stuff. And then I close the vise on it and I let it sit overnight. I know that I got plenty in there when it comes out, like for instance, it comes out the bottom, which means that there's plenty inside there. You have to make sure that all the oil is cleaned off and the dirt and stuff like that as much as you can inside the crack, so that the glue will hold together. I never would have thought of super glue, but an old, well, an old gunsmith and a friend of mine, and he's the one that told me to use the super glue. That it works real well, and I've had no problems with it since I started using it. So I fixed some cracks. I got one more crack to fix back here, and we're going to take care of the oil. Another problem that I have with it is this is right here. This metal piece is the recoil lug that the Mausers have. And what it does is it holds the gun together. Like I said, when you fire, the barrel tries to split the wood in half, and this helps hold that together, so that isn't a problem. Again, on the Brazilian, that's the way it's supposed to look. What it is, it's the rectangular shaped piece of metal that goes in and it hooks onto this side, and then there's a nut that fits on this side, and you screw it down tight and you keep it tight. But you can see that the nut is disintegrated. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take a drill and I'm going to drill down and I'm going to go past where the nut is. I don't expect the nut to come flying out, but what I want to do then is take a punch and I'm going to punch it out this way. So that way there, it'll come out, and then I can go back and punch out the nut. An interesting thing that may be a minor thing for people, but is on the short rifle, the Colombian short rifle, the nut is on a different side than it is for the rest of the Mausers that I have. The rest of the Mausers, the nut's on the right hand side, whereas on the Colombians, it's on the left hand side, which I don't know if that makes any difference or whatever, but it's just the way that they did it. It's not just this gun; it's the other Colombian that I have also. It seems to be a pattern. Well, anyway, it's 4 in the morning. I'm gonna try to get away with drilling, um, and after that, I'll be back. I may get evicted, but I'm gonna give it a try because I want to do that before I take the oil off, and then I'll show you how I take the oil off. Okay, thanks. Okay, I got it out. Uh, I haven't heard anything from upstairs, so apparently I didn't make a whole lot of noise. I went real slow because, well, first of all, I wanted to make sure that I didn't make any mistakes on this. And the other thing is that, it makes less noise that way. And speaking of noise, let me turn off the heater. I don't know if the heater's, it's in the teens today, so I just had the heater on. So this is what the new one looks like that I'm going to put in. You can see it goes in, it's square or rectangle, and it goes in, and the nut goes on there to hold it on. This is the one I took out. You can see I just drilled the screw part off of this, and this just came off with the drill bit, and then I just knocked it out and came out real easy. And there you go. That's how it looks. So that was an easy step. That was a lot easier than I actually thought it was going to be. So we'll put that back in when probably last when we're just about done with the stock. So there are lots of ways to take the deep oil out of the stock. People use different methods. So people use they'll use like an iron and get things heated up and it'll come out. I've used the sun, putting it in the summertime, putting it out in the sun, and the heat draws the oil out of the wood, and then you just go keep wiping it off. Some people use brake cleaner, which I don't know how ecologically sound that is, but they'll use brake cleaner on it to try to get rid of some of the oil. I like doing things slow and it's kind of a zen type thing once you get going with it. But what I'm going to use is I'm going to use heat. And what I'm going to use is I have my heat gun and a piece of toilet paper. And this is going to take out the oil. So what I do is keep the toilet paper away from the heat gun. I'm going to heat the wood up. The secret is to get it real hot without burning it. When I first started doing it, yeah, I burnt the wood. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting the heat on it. I don't know if you can see it's starting to get real shiny. And the reason it's getting shiny is because the heat's drawing the oil towards it's actually wet on top now. Now the toilet paper comes in. It's probably a lot more than I needed, but what you're going to do is you're going to run the toilet paper without putting any pressure on it over the top of that thing. You don't want to use pressure because what you're going to do if you do that is you're going to drive the oil back down inside the wood again. So you want to use just very lightly. I don't know. Well, let me get some more on here and you'll be able to see, but it's starting to come out. The other gun, I got the field test, the field gauge coming today. Hopefully, I'll be able to pass that gun so that it can be fired safely. I'm hoping because nobody wants a dead gun. The only way that you can fix that if you have a chamber that's too deep, and it's the reason it gets deep is from use. Eventually the steel starts to wear away a little bit, and is what they do is take the barrel off and they shave a little bit off the barrel, thousandths of an inch, and then what they do then is they have to redo the chamber itself to make sure the chamber is what it's supposed to be, and that's where you end up with it costing a lot of money. For those that reload, one of the things that you can do once you establish that it is a long chamber is you can adjust the shoulder on your rounds and so that they fit inside there and actually you bring it down bring it down so that it will okay. I don't know, maybe you can see it now. See the oil starting to come out. I haven't done that yet, obviously, but I mean, if it were my gun, that's probably what I would do. Is I would they call it bumping the shoulder, and you bump it just a few thousandths of an inch, and then that way there it changes the headspace, or changes the way that the cartridge sits inside the chamber, so that you have actually adjusted the headspace. I mean, if I have to, I mean, I can trade guns with a kid, and he can take the one I have because mine does pass the headspace gauge tests. Well, anyway, this is going to take probably a good part of the day to do this. What I do is when I can't get any more out, and then it's pretty much on the surface. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly sand the whole gun and the whole stock, and that'll get rid of a lot of the color here that you have for this. All right. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do with this, and I'll show it to you tomorrow. All right. Thank you.